What's up, guys? Blinkers on here, and today we are going to be doing the third episode of the Be Crushed by a Speeding Wall series. So we are making this game, the Be Crushed by a Speeding Wall game, in Roblox, and this will hopefully teach you some scripting concepts, and actually make it so you can make your own games inspired by this one, and it's a really cool little project. So far, we made it so that when you click play, you can go and you can click activate wall, and if you hold it, then you wait 4 seconds, the wall will go all the way down, and you can wait for it to come all the way back, and it will actually kill you, as you can see. And yeah, that's what we've done so far, but we still have a long way to go. And in today's episode, we are going to be making it so that when you go all the way to the end and you fall down that pit, you'll be teleported all the way back down here, and you will get a win on a leaderboard up here at the top. And this data will actually store across servers, so if you leave and rejoin, the data will be stored. So let's get straight into it, but first I need to make a quick announcement. From the past few weeks of uploading, I have had an inconsistent upload schedule, and I'm sorry that that's happened, but that's just how it's going to be because I'm trying to be better, but that might be how it is for a while. Like I'm supposed to be uploading every Sunday, but I'm uploading about every Monday now, and that's just going to fluctuate by a day, hopefully not more. And I did not upload the Python video on Wednesday, and for that I'm very sorry. I'm really gonna try to get on top of this. So yeah, that's what's gonna be there for the future. So now that I've addressed that, let's just get straight into it, and let's go down to server script service and add a new script. Now we're gonna delete the print function, and then we're just gonna copy this and paste this code from the description. I know I don't usually do this. This is not something I don't like, just copying and pasting code. But it's kind of lengthy, and I don't want to just put this in one giant long video. So I'm going to just be posting it into the description so everyone can copy this and put it and paste it in. But I am going to go over it because I want you guys to learn how this actually works, and I'm just going to explain kind of everything first. So these up here with the local definitions and stuff, this is defining our data store service. So all the other stuff like the player service and our win platform, because we're going to need a reference to that. So the data store service, it's a service that allows for data to be stored, as the name suggests, and it can be stored across places in an experience. So it can be from one server to the next, and it will be stored when you leave and rejoin. And that's what we need for our score data. Then below that we have our player reference. So this gets a game GetService players reference. So this references the player service, which will get a reference to every single player in the game, as this reference right here, which currently has only me, and yeah, that's the only player. And up here we just get a workspace reference to the win platform, which is the over here. If I leave this and go over here, this is the win platform right here. So now if we go back into it, we can see I get a reference to the data store service, GetDataStore PlayerWins. So when I have this, it's just sending a variable for a new data storage. So think of it as a box, kind of like a variable, I guess. But it's, it is a variable, but the data store service is its own little box that has PlayerWins on the outside. So it assigns a value to every single thing. So it has a long list of items, so player IDs with a certain value kind of that are going to be in this box. And that's what the data store service GetDataStore. It creates the player wins if it can't find one with that same name. So the next one we have our actually first function, and before that we have local player wins equal to a list. This is just a list that we're going to store all of our values for all our player IDs in. Next, we have our local function, and it's just padIncrement otherPart. So this will actually increment our value, but I'm going to get back to that one because I need to explain the next function first. So this one, local function onPlayerAdded, this one is just called onPlayerAdded, and it has a player variable here, and that will be assigned to the player that was added, because I referenced this later with players.PlayerAdded connect onPlayerAdded. So when I connect to PlayerAdded, it'll put in the player as the player that was just logged into the game. So now I go down to read, so you can see read data store key. So local success stored wins equals pcall function returns winStore get async player.UserId. So this is a function that will run a pcall, which checks to see if this this can work. So this winStore get async player.UserId, that'll basically get the value for that player ID kind of, and it will return if it was a success or if it was not a success. So if success, then local current wins, which is just a new variable that's created. If stored wins, which means if it didn't find a value for the player user ID, then it'll assign current wins to stored wins, and current wins is equal to 0. So else current wins is equal to 0. And so after that, we have PlayerWins, player.UserId is equal to current wins. So we're basically adding a new value to this dictionary right here with the name tag of player's user ID and the current wins it has. So current wins is equal to stored wins if it can't find the value, or if it finds the value, and then it will go on and it'll print current wins. This is pretty much just a thing I have right here to make sure it works. Then after that, this is the part where we actually make the leaderboard. So this is much simpler than everything else. Basically, you have to make a new folder called local leader stats, and it has to be named leader stats in all lowercase, because we write leaderstats.name, and this has to be leader stats. So because the Roblox engine has a service like the LeaderStat service or something, and it'll automatically detect a folder named LeaderStats as something that needs to be added to the leaderboard. So we then set this folder to as parent as a player, which is the local player that was added, right? So now that'll give us the LeaderStat value up here, and it'll actually show it, and that's the thing that you see in all kinds of different Roblox games. And then now we create our first kind of value in the folder. It's an int value, and we name it to wins. Now so you can change that to pretty much whatever you want, but because that's what's going to display up here. I have 50 wins, that guy has 70 wins, so that's kind of the score in the game. So wins.parent is equal to leader stats, has to have its parent as leader stats, and the value is PlayerWins player.UserId, because it's accessing their score for the user ID. Now we have local function onPlayer removing player. We're going to set the data store key, local success error. Basically, if this succeeds, it's another pcall. It'll have the success. If not, it has an error. Oops, I accidentally moved the script. I'm going to Control-Z that. So now it'll run a function with the pcall, and then we do winStore set async player user ID PlayerWins player user ID. So it'll pretty much just set the service kind of with that. So if not success, so that if it failed, we're going to warn to the console error. So we're going to clean up the entry so that the table doesn't grow for the lifespan of the server. PlayerWins player.UserId equals nil. Basically, this just means that there won't be a list that just keeps growing and growing and growing with all the people that get into the game. So next we have finally we have all of our defining parts, so that players.PlayerAdded connect onPlayerAdded. This is just connecting all of our functions. And finally, we have our padIncrement script. So this script will increase the value of our score every time we step on the pad, and it will teleport the player. So if we look over here, we have padIncrement, then we have otherPart. Basically, this will get a reference to the part that touched the block. So then we have local character is equal to otherPart.parent. This will get the player's character. And then we have the local root, which is the character FindFirstChild HumanoidRootPart. So that's what we need, because we need to teleport the HumanoidRootPart back to spawn. So root.Position is equal to vector3.new. And then we have that as the value, kind of like our like tween. So I just go to spawn location and get this position right here, and then I increase it by 1 so that our player actually spawns above it and not inside of the spawn platform. And then we just get a reference to the local player, kind of. So it's players get player from character. And then we have that, so that's the character reference. And then now that we have, or actually get the player from the character reference, yeah, that's the character reference. Now that we have the player, we can actually increase their value. So we have PlayerWins, which is the list over here, player.UserId, which is their user ID, plus equals to 1. So we're accessing their value with their user ID, and we're increasing their score by 1. Player.leaderstats.wins.Value is equal to PlayerWins player.UserId. So basically, it'll increase the leaderstats.wins. And that is our padIncrement function. That's our entire script, and we're just going to run that script, and I'm going to show you how it works. So currently I have 1 win, which is just how it is. And then I go over here, and I go all the way to the end, and I jump down here, and our wins is now equal to 2. So we can do this as many times as we want. We can go all the way to the end again, and go, and then we can go all the way and jump in, and our wins will update, and this will actually save across the game. So I'm going to go in again, and boom, I have 3 wins. So if I stop this, and I actually get into the game again, I still have 3 wins, so the data saved. So that's going to be our tutorial for today. We pretty much have a working game now, like a completely working game, that you could honestly just post and play with your friends. But there's other things that we need to add to make this game more good for us. Like we're going to add monetization, and we're actually going to add some sound effects too, and polish the environment a little. So thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out.